Sign these papers, Maxwell, or accept Trevor as part of your life. Your choice. Those were the last words Alana whispered with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, sliding the divorce papers across the table as if she had already won. She had no idea the man she thought was broken had been quietly watching, calculating every move, and preparing a response that would turn her betrayal against her. What happened next will make you question how far love, deception, and revenge can stretch. Subscribe, like, comment, and watch till ending to share this interesting story to family and friends. My name is Maxwell Jude, a 36-year-old civil engineer living in Atlanta, someone trained to recognize cracks in metal, stress in steel, and the earliest signs of structural failure. Yet somehow I missed every warning sign in my own marriage. It wasn't until the morning my wife, Alana, pushed divorce papers across our dining table that I finally realized just how blind I'd been. What broke me wasn't the papers. It was her smile. Not a nervous smile. Not a guilty one. A confident, satisfied smile, like the ending of a movie she'd already watched. She nudged the documents toward me with 2 fingertips and said almost tenderly, "Max, I want you to be reasonable. Either accept my friend Trevor into our marriage, or sign." Her voice was warm. Her eyes were not. For a second I thought I misheard her. Accept Trevor? As in, integrate him into our relationship? My hand froze over the pen. My heart thudded like machinery under strain. She sat there calmly, tapping the table lightly, as if she expected me to process this like some logical calculation. Trevor. A name I hadn't heard in years, yet it felt like a punch to the ribs. He wasn't just a friend. He was her ex from college. The one she once described as a manipulative narcissist who monitored her texts, criticized her body, cheated on her, and convinced her she was lucky he stayed. She told me she escaped him. She told me she would never go back. So why was she asking me to accept him? The sunlight sharpened the angles of her face, giving her an almost unreal glow. I remembered her recent late nights, gym sessions, secretive phone habits, things I ignored because love makes you hopeful and hope makes you stupid. I swallowed hard. Alana, why now? Her smile widened slightly, almost pitying. Oh Max, she whispered, this didn't start today. It's been happening for a long time. You just didn't notice. Something inside me twisted, a quiet warning. This was only the beginning. Her words hung in the air like smoke, thick, heavy, impossible to ignore. It's been happening for a long time. You just didn't notice. The worst part was how calmly she said it, like she was helping me understand something obvious, something everyone knew but me. She leaned back in her chair, crossing her legs slowly, casually, as if we weren't discussing the dismantling of our entire life together. I could feel my pulse in my throat. Are you telling me you've been seeing him? She didn't flinch. Maxwell, don't make it sound ugly. I reconnected with someone who understands a part of me you stopped paying attention to. A sudden flashback erupted in my mind, one I didn't ask for. 2 months earlier she'd come home from her team dinner, smelling like a cologne I didn't own. I'd laughed it off when she said she hugged a coworker. The next morning she made me pancakes, kissed me on the forehead, and told me I overthink things. That was her trick. She softened every lie with affection, and I let myself believe her. But Trevor? I whispered. Of all people, him? She gave a small shrug. People change. No, I said, shaking my head. You changed. She looked at me then, really looked, eyes narrowing with something between impatience and satisfaction. You were too busy working, Max, too busy organizing your perfect little life. You never noticed how lonely I was. That's not fair. Isn't it? She asked, tilting her head. You think marriages fall apart because one person cheats? No. They fall apart long before that. My chest tightened. There was truth in that, but not the truth she wanted it to be. Alana had always needed admiration like oxygen. I used to give her that, flowers, surprises, little notes on her mirror. But over the past year, every time I tried she seemed distracted, unimpressed, somewhere else. Trevor. Suddenly the signs connected like pieces of a blueprint I should have solved long ago. I let out a slow breath. So what happens now? Alana smiled faintly, resting her fingers on the papers. Now Max, you choose the future you want. Something in her tone chilled me, as if the future she was offering wasn't a choice at all, but a test she already believed I wow. Fail, please don't forget to subscribe. My fingers grazed the edge of the divorce papers, but I still didn't touch them. The weight of everything she said pressed against my chest like a beam about to snap. Alana, meanwhile, looked disturbingly serene, like this entire moment was happening exactly as she expected. Before I could speak, the vibration of her phone broke the silence. She flinched just slightly, but enough for me to notice. The screen lit up on the table between us. A preview message flashed. "Trevor, did you tell him?" Her hand shot forward so fast it almost startled me. She grabbed the phone, flipped it face down, and forced a smile too quickly. "Don't read into that," she said softly. But it was already too late. A cold realization slid down my spine. They'd coordinated this. Whatever this choice was, whatever ultimatum she'd given me, it wasn't something spontaneous. They planned it, discussed it. He was waiting for her update. The betrayal hit me harder than I expected. Not just the cheating, not just the manipulation, but the fact that she wasn't even hiding her anticipation for his approval. "I think I deserve the truth," I said quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. Alana sighed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "Max, don't make this dramatic. Trevor and we've been reconnecting for a while." "How long?" She hesitated. A flicker of something, guilt, fear, irritation, passed through her eyes. "For months," she whispered. Another flashback struck me, sharper this time. Her sudden excitement about joining a new fitness boot camp. Her constant girls' nights. Her extra attention to her appearance. I remembered waking up one night at 2 a.m. and finding her in the bathroom, smiling at her phone, whispering. She told me she was watching skincare videos. I believed her. Because loving her made me blind. "You should have talked to me," I said. "I tried," she argued. "You were always too tired, too focused, too distant." "That's not true." She exhaled, exhausted with me already. "Max, sometimes people grow apart. And sometimes, people grow back together." Her meaning was obvious. She wasn't just cheating. She was choosing him. I stared at her, heart pounding, realizing something terrifying. She didn't want my permission. She wanted my submission. I sat back in my chair trying to process everything, but the room felt narrower, hotter, like the air itself was tightening around my throat. I kept thinking, she's gone. She's already gone. Not physically, not legally, but emotionally. She checked out of our marriage months ago, maybe even longer. I just didn't see it. Or maybe, I refused to see it. Alana stood up suddenly, pushing her chair back with a soft scrape. She walked toward the counter, pouring herself a glass of water with a calmness that almost felt taunting. Her robe shifted slightly, revealing the faint outline of a necklace I'd never seen before. Gold. Simple. Elegant. Not my gift. Trevor's. "Maxwell," she said, her back still to me, "you have to understand something. I'm not trying to punish you. I'm trying to be honest about what I need." "What you need?" I repeated, my voice breaking with disbelief. "You need your ex in our marriage?" She turned to face me, glass in hand. "I need emotional openness. Freedom. Adventure. Things you stopped giving me. And Trevor offers all that?" She sipped her water. "He listens. He prioritizes me. He makes me feel seen." The words stabbed deeper than anything she'd said before. Because for the first time, I realized she wasn't comparing us as we were today, she was comparing me to a fantasy version of him. Someone who probably told her everything she wanted to hear, someone who didn't carry the weight of bills, stress, or responsibility. Someone she could romanticize without facing the truth. "So that's it?" I asked quietly. "He came back and you just switched sides?" Her expression softened, but not with sympathy, more like guilt disguised as justification. "When someone understands your soul, Max, you don't just ignore it. You mean when someone gives you attention." Her jaw clenched. She hated when I exposed the truth she tried to wrap in poetic excuses. She set the glass down a little too hard. "Believe what you want. But Trevor cares about me in ways you stopped caring." A sudden memory hit me like a blow. A year ago, she'd admitted she feared becoming invisible as she got older. She said she needed validation, constant affection. I promised her she wouldn't become invisible to me. But maybe I underestimated how desperately she needed the world to notice her. Alana walked back to the table, her steps slow, deliberate. She placed her hand on the divorce papers, her eyes glinting with something unsettlingly certain. "This is the future, Max. And you need to decide if you're coming with me, or staying behind." Something inside me shifted. A quiet, dangerous shift. Because I suddenly realized this wasn't just betrayal. It was manipulation. And she thought I was too weak to see. Please don't forget subscribe. B. A strange calm settled over me, not acceptance, not shock, but the eerie stillness that hits right before something breaks. Alana mistook it for defeat. She eased back into her chair, fingers lightly tracing the edge of the divorce papers like she was petting a victory she already owned. "You know," she murmured, "I honestly hoped you'd choose the first option." "I really did." "Why?" I asked. My voice came out steady, which surprised even me. "Because divorce is messy," she said with a sigh. "And you're not built for chaos, Max. You've always been predictable." Predictable. That landed harder than it should have. She'd used the word before, years ago when we first started dating. Back then she said it with admiration. She told me I was the first stable person she'd ever been with. Someone who kept promises. Someone who didn't play games. But now, stability meant boredom to her. Consistency meant stagnation. Predictability meant weakness. She leaned her elbows on the table. "Besides, Trevor thinks you'd actually understand." That snapped me out of my calm. "Trevor thinks what?" "That deep down you know I've been unhappy. That you'd want to give me what I need, because that's who you are. You fix things." Fix things. That's what she reduced me to. A handyman for her emotions. A memory flashed again, clearer now. 2 months earlier she came home with a tiny bruise on her collarbone. She told me she bumped into a cabinet door at the gym. I kissed it, believing her. But she looked away too quickly. Too intentionally. Now I wondered if Trevor put that bruise there, not from violence but from something worse, intimacy. "Alana," I said slowly, "did you ever plan to tell me the truth before today?" She hesitated, just long enough to answer the question. "No," she admitted quietly. "Honestly? I hoped you'd never find out. Trevor said men like you prefer not knowing." The anger that rose inside me wasn't loud. It was cold. Controlled. The kind that didn't burn, it froze. "So this entire marriage," I said, "you expected me to stay blind?" Her lips pressed together. "Most men do. Most men accept what keeps the peace." I let out a humorless breath. "You really think I'm like most men?" She didn't answer. But her silence told me everything. Something cracked inside me, not the kind of crack that weakens a structure but the kind that signals a shift in load-bearing weight. A change in the foundation. I looked at her then, not the woman I married but the woman she had become. And for the first time I saw her clearly. Not broken. Not lost. But calculating. And if she thought I would crumble, she was about to learn she didn't know me at all. I stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. The sound seemed louder than it should have been, echoing off the walls like a warning. Alana flinched slightly but the smile never left her face. She thought she had me cornered, trapped in disbelief and confusion. She thought she had won before the game even started. "You know," I said slowly, "I've been replaying the past few months in my head." Her expression shifted imperceptibly, curiosity mixing with caution. "Oh. I remember the nights you said you were working late," I continued, my voice low, deliberate. "The nights I'd come home early, expecting us to have dinner together, only to find the apartment empty. I remember the gym classes that seemed innocent, the sudden girls' nights, the locked phone." My gaze hardened. "I remember the lies." She looked away, faintly guilty but only for a second. Her hand hovered over the papers but she didn't touch them. That hesitation, it was the first real crack in her armor. Flashbacks came in sharp stabs. Her whispered phone conversations at 2 a.m., the faint smell of a cologne I didn't recognize, the little gestures she made to draw attention without revealing anything. Each memory was a puzzle piece, fitting into a picture I had refused to see. 4 months. That was how long she'd been weaving this trap while I trusted every word she said. "You were always so good at fixing things," I said, pacing slowly, making sure bridges didn't collapse, walls didn't crack. "But you never noticed what was happening right under your own roof." She tilted her head, sipping the water she hadn't finished. "Maxwell, you can play this like it's all my fault but don't pretend you didn't see signs. You just didn't want to act on them." The truth stung. I had seen glimpses of it, dismissed them. I had let my own trust, and my love for her, blind me. Her eyes met mine, confident, sharp. "So what will it be, Max? Will you accept Trevor or sign the papers?" I swallowed hard. My chest burned, not from anger, not yet, but from the realization that this was bigger than either of us. Bigger than betrayal. Bigger than control. This was about power, manipulation, and how far she was willing to go to prove a point. And in that instant, a quiet determination settled over me. She might have thought I was predictable. That I would bend, break, or submit. She was wrong. Please don't forget to subscribe. I didn't sit back down. I couldn't. Something about the way she looked at me, calm, certain, almost smug, made my skin crawl. Alana believed she had designed this moment perfectly, like she had rehearsed the script and memorized my lines for me. But she forgot one thing. People don't always follow the script. I took a slow step away from the table, letting distance clear my thoughts. She watched me with an expression that hovered between curiosity and annoyance, as if my refusal to crumble was inconvenient. "You know what's funny?" I said quietly. "You keep talking about what you need, but you haven't asked me once what I need." She raised a brow. "Maxwell, this isn't about you being neglected. This is about us evolving." "Evolving?" I echoed. "By bringing your ex into our marriage?" She sighed deeply, like I was a child refusing to understand something simple. "You're thinking too literally. You always do. Trevor and I share a history, a bond you and I lost." Her words hit harder than she probably intended. Lost. Not damaged. Not strained. Lost. I wondered when she started believing that. Before Trevor came back into her life, or because he came back? It didn't matter now. "What does Trevor get out of this?" I asked. Her jaw stiffened for a second, barely visible but enough to notice. "Why does that matter?" she replied too quickly. "Because no man agrees to this unless he wants something." She didn't answer. Flashback. 3 years earlier at a university alumni cookout, we ran into Trevor unexpectedly. I remember the way he looked at Alana, like she was something he lost and desperately wanted back. She clung to my arm the whole night, whispering that she wanted to leave. She cried on the drive home, saying he made her feel hunted. Now she was inviting the hunter inside. "Max, don't twist this," she said, voice tightening. "Trevor is just part of my emotional life now. You can either share that with me or walk away." "Share?" I repeated. "You mean surrender?" Alana's lips parted, eyes flashing irritation. She hated when I saw through her language, exposed the manipulation under the pretty words. "You're being dramatic," she snapped. "I gave you a choice. A generous one." "No," I whispered, stepping closer. "You gave me an ultimatum." She opened her mouth to argue, but then her phone buzzed again. Louder this time. Insistent. And just like before, her eyes flicked toward it with guilt. Only this time. The message preview didn't just show Trevor's name. It showed a second name. One I didn't recognize. A second man. Her breath hitched, and everything inside me went cold. Alana's phone buzzed again, sharp and insistent, cutting through the tension like a knife. This time, I didn't need to see the screen to know whose name it displayed. Trevor. And now another, someone new, someone I hadn't met. My chest tightened. Each vibration was a reminder that her world had layers I hadn't even begun to uncover. She picked up the phone quickly, covering the screen with her hand. Her eyes darted to mine for the briefest second, a flicker of guilt she tried to mask with a calm smile. But it was too late. I saw it. I always see it. That momentary hesitation, the subtle crack in her armor, told me everything. "Maxwell," she said, voice soft, almost coaxing, "it's not what you think. It's complicated." Complicated. The word made my blood run cold. She had used it before, casually, whenever she wanted me to ignore the depth of a lie. And now, after months of careful planning, it was her shield again. I took a slow step toward her. "Every late night. Every secret smile at your phone. Every sudden plan or trip you couldn't explain, it's all complicated." My voice was quiet, but it carried an edge sharp enough to cut through the room. She flinched. I didn't mean for it to happen like this." A memory hit me like a hammer. The tiny bruise on her collarbone she had blamed on a gym cabinet. The whispered calls at 2 a.m. The way she laughed a little too long at texts she didn't want me to see. Every small act, every detail I had dismissed, was part of a pattern I had been blind to until now. "You wanted Trevor," I said, stepping closer. "And whoever else." Her eyes widened just slightly before narrowing again. "It's not about wanting. It's about needing." "Needing?" I repeated, letting the word linger in the air. "Alana, you don't get to need at the expense of truth. You don't get to manipulate the people who love you and call it necessity." She swallowed hard. Her lips pressed together. And for the first time I felt the power in our dynamic shift. She realized that the predictable man she thought she controlled had disappeared. The room was silent except for the ticking of the clock. And in that silence I knew one thing clearly: I was no longer just reacting. I was planning. And the consequences for her would be far greater than she could imagine. Please don't forget to subscribe. By now the air in the apartment felt thick, almost tangible, heavy with betrayal and unspoken threats. I had spent the past few days retracing every moment, every gesture, every lie, and now the pieces were forming a pattern so precise it made my stomach churn. Alana didn't just cheat, she orchestrated it, weaving herself into the lives of others while maintaining a facade I had trusted blindly. I stood in the living room watching her pace as if she owned the floor. The divorce papers lay on the table like an unspoken challenge. She glanced at them but didn't reach for them. Her phone lay face down, silent now, but I knew the buzz would return, bringing with it the network of deception she had spun. Trevor was one part of it, but not the only one. That second name from the earlier message haunted me. Who else was involved? How deep did this go? I remembered a conversation from years ago, early in our marriage, when Alana had confided in me about her fear of being invisible, her fear of being unremarkable. She had said she needed constant proof of love, attention that bordered on obsession. At the time, I thought I could give her that through care, stability, and dedication. But she had found other ways to fill the void, ones I couldn't see. The truth hit me. All the subtle shifts, the late nights, the secretive texts, the inexplicable enthusiasm for girl trips, the sudden interest in fitness classes, all of it was a rehearsal, a layering of smoke and mirrors designed to hide the reality. And I had been too trusting, too absorbed in my own life to notice. Alana stopped pacing, turning toward me with a smile that no longer fooled me. Her eyes were calculating, sharp, almost predatory. "Max," she said softly, "I thought you would understand. I thought you'd see this as a chance for growth." I stepped closer, voice low and steady, almost cold. "Growth? This is betrayal. You're asking me to accept your choices as if they were gifts. But you don't get to rewrite the rules of our marriage. Not like this. Not without consequences." For the first time she faltered. A shadow of doubt flickered across her face. She had underestimated me. She had assumed I would crumble or at least beg for compromise. But I was no longer a man blinded by love alone. I was aware, calculating, and silently plotting how to regain control of the narrative she had stolen from me. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. She realized finally that I was no longer predictable. And in that moment I understood the truth. The game had changed. I didn't rush to the table. I didn't pick up the pen. Instead, I let the silence stretch, heavy and deliberate, until it pressed against her chest like a living thing. Alana's eyes flicked to the papers again, then back to me, searching for a reaction she thought she could predict. She found none. "I've made my decision," I said slowly, letting each word land. "But it's not the one you expected." Her smile wavered. Her confidence flickered, just slightly, but enough to see cracks forming in the mask she had perfected over months. "You underestimated me," I continued. "You think I'd just accept this rewriting of our marriage? You think I'd roll over because you're pretty, because you smile, because you manipulated everything so perfectly?" I paused, taking a breath, letting the weight of my control settle. "You were wrong." She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "I'm not signing. I'm not giving Trevor, or anyone else, that place in my life. If you want to leave, then fine. But I will not participate in this charade. I will not validate it." Her face hardened. "So that's it? You're throwing everything away?" I shook my head, calm now, resolute. "I'm not throwing anything away. I'm reclaiming it." Alana looked at me, then really looked, and for a moment I thought I saw regret flicker behind the armor. Maybe she realized she had underestimated what I was capable of, not just in patience but in strategic silence, in watching, waiting, and finally acting. I gathered the papers slowly, sliding them toward her. My hand was steady. "Sign them yourself. But know this," I said quietly, almost gently, "I am not the same man who trusted blindly. I see clearly now. And everything you've done, every manipulation, every betrayal, it's all on you." Her lips pressed into a thin line. She reached for the pen, hesitated, then grabbed it with a hand that trembled slightly, just enough for me to know she felt the weight of her own choices. I walked past her, toward the balcony, feeling the cool wind of the Atlanta skyline hit my face. For the first time in months, I felt clarity, empowerment, and a dangerous satisfaction. I had survived her storm, and I would rebuild on my own terms. But even as I watched the city shimmer beneath me, I knew this wasn't over. Betrayal leaves traces. And somewhere, deep in the shadows of what's next, secrets still waited. Secrets I intended to uncover. The game had changed. And now, I was the one calling the shots. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share for more interesting stories.